Hey there, folks. So I'm here in the city of Corvallis at the BMX bike park, and as you can see, law enforcement is here, and today they're escorting this Parks Department vehicle. So the city of Corvallis sent the police and the Parks Department down here to evict a homeless camp. And so the person whose camp this is has been on notice apparently for upward of a week now. They knew that this eviction was coming, so it's not coming as a surprise. But that doesn't really, in my mind, excuse what's happening. So if you've ever been homeless, then you know that it's hard to just have basic things like a pillow or a hat or a blanket. And then once you are like getting your life together, then it's hard to keep your things because sometimes other homeless folks will come along and steal from you. But in this instance today, what's happening is that the city of Corvallis is using public funds to clean up. They're cleaning up this area, but the result of that is that the person who lives here, now they don't have a place to live. So, before, actually I think there were quite a few people living here, and so the city came in and posted them up and they evicted them and told them they couldn't live here. And now they're coming through and taking their items and throwing them away. So in theory, these items that are deemed valuable or still worth something will be put into storage, and then the stored items, a person can come and claim them and pick them up. And then the things that are not deemed to be valuable or worth anything get thrown away. And basically, it's a camp cleanup is what's going on. So, I think it's important to have a clean environment. Like, I totally get that. But, and it's unsightly. Like when there's garbage around, it doesn't prevent a really beautiful sight. But it's not, in my estimation, presenting a real danger to people. Like, it's not a real threat to people. This blue building over here, however, is. It's a fiberglass factory, and it dumps microparticulates into the air, and those actually kill people. Like, it creates lung conditions and kills people. You should not breathe fiberglass. So anyway, what's happening over here is that this camp is being cleaned up by the city of Corvallis Parks Department with the help of law enforcement. And my belief is that it's a human rights violation, because it's basically torture. The people who live here, they don't have anywhere else to go. So once they leave here, it's not like they're going to go to some luxury hotel or go to a shelter. They just have to go find somewhere else to camp, and then they still have to figure out how to get a tent and a tarp and a bed and everything it takes to make a living. So it's not a real solution, is what I'm saying. Is that the use of resources by the city, it's not a real solution. It's not actually helping the people to better their position in life. It's just depriving them of their potential for happiness, in my opinion. And obviously it's depriving them of property. So earlier I was down here putting a video up on YouTube, and I had an opportunity to talk with one of the officers. And really, the officers here went out of their way to give folks extra time to get their lives in order before this eviction happened. And they're really being as considerate as they can, being that it's their job to enforce this law. But the sad part is that the law actually violates international law, and it violates federal law, and it's unconstitutional. So the law that they're enforcing here is actually not only is it unconstitutional and illegal, it's also highly immoral, because you're taking someone whose life is already really challenging and difficult and then further depriving them of their most basic items that they need for living. And now all of these things that are being stolen by the state, the people have to go out and replace them and figure out how they're going to have a table, how they're going to have a tent, how they're going to have a tarp, where they're going to sleep. So, this type of action, it doesn't solve any of those problems. It doesn't actually address the problems, the underlying problems that cause camps like this to exist, which is that there's no safe, legal, accessible place to sleep. And in an absence of that, it makes this actually a form of torture. So earlier I was explaining to one of the officers that this is cruel and unusual punishment as defined by the United Nations. And that, it might be considered he considers it his job to enforce this law, but it's actually an immoral law that's unconstitutional and federally illegal, and internationally illegal. So, refugees under the United Nations are offered more dignity than what these people are offered here, because they don't have their... Anyway, the city of Corvallis really needs to figure out how to address this issue in a way that isn't so resource heavy, sending all these trucks, sending law enforcement, sending social workers, because what's going to happen is under global warming, there's going to be huge fires all around. And those people are going to need a safe place of refuge to come to, and a lot of them are going to come to Corvallis. And so the number of people who are homeless now in Corvallis is actually going to go up. And as long as they're using this law and this tactic, then it's going to drain the city of resources, because it's so expensive to do this to people, and it doesn't help the people. At the end of the day, the people are still in the same position they were before, only they have less possessions. So there is a longer version of this video from the original part when I walked up on it and found a reporter, and I don't know if it was a sergeant or a police chief or whoever it was here, but I did speak with a reporter, and I spoke with one of the law enforcement officers. If you want, you can find that video on my YouTube. So anyway, it's not super interesting what's going on here. It's just some Parks Department employees enforcing a law that I believe is inhumane, unconstitutional, federally illegal, and internationally illegal, but they're here enforcing it anyway. They have to pay their mortgages, and if they have to harm the public to do it, then they're okay with that. So anyway, with all that said, I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and I'll talk with you again very soon.